everything's good. So we're going to okay. Okay. Okay.
Sharing?
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm honored. I still have a water pot for you.
Yes, we do.
I'm going to need it.
I talked to Mr.
Oh, come on. Bring it on.
Now you got to keep me straight and him straight.
He's a good person. We got a lot of similar issues.
I came down for Crookers. Was there for 2 nights. So we had to go over there.
Told me he's always got a place to stay.
Hi Sherry, how are you? Like every day, right?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the North Carolina Coastal Counties Fishing Coalition. Appreciate everyone being here this afternoon. At this time, I'd like to ask my Vice Chair of Dare County, Mr. Steve House, if he would lead us in an invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come for you today, and first off, to thank you for this beautiful and wonderful weather we have here on this wonderful area of the North Carolina coast. Lord, we also want to thank you for the safe travels and passage of all of our coalition members to be here with us today, and also with all of our observers here with us as well. Dear Lord, we want to work within your will to protect our communities, our commercial fishing status, our livelihoods, and under your guidance, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Senator Haney, would you lead us in a pledge?
Absolutely. Where's the flag?
Where's the flag?
We have a flag.
They took the flag.
There's a North Carolina one on my back.
There you go. Perfect.
There you go.
Hard to be turning around on you all. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You feel like Hitler being sworn to.
Once again, thank you all for being here. I can't thank Chairman Chadwick enough for their hospitality and agreeing to host this each time. This is our 3rd meeting here. This is a central location for all the 20 coastal counties. So, Chris, thank you again, as always.
Glad to do it.
Really appreciate all your support and your staff and helping us set this up and make this happen. I want to thank those of you out there in the audience for being here. We will have some public comment towards the end of our meeting. We welcome anything positive that you have that you'd like to certainly share with us, and we look forward to anything you may have. I've asked last meeting, as you very well know, we have a couple of very well-educated, expert people helping us. Glenn Skinner's here again. We asked him to be one of our consultants for us, and anything question, anything the coalition has, or anybody out there, he's more than willing to help. I've also asked my vice chair, Mr. Steve House, as of this meeting to join us as one of our consultants as well. He's very, very active with our board and extremely knowledgeable running our board meetings with respect to marine fisheries issues. He attends all those meetings. He runs our local program. So I've asked him to sit in, and he has some things he'd like to share with us today as well. So with that being said, before you, we have the minutes of our last meeting. If you'll take a moment to look at those, coalition members, if you'll take a minute to look at those, I'll need a motion to approve in a second.
I'll be glad to make a motion, Bob, at that time.
Second.
All right, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Griffin. It's been seconded by Cindy. And further discussion? Hearing those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I'm going to ask for an approval for an agenda amendment. I'd like to switch item 4 and 5. I'd like to present the subcommittees first, and then we'll talk about some current issues. So do I have a motion to amend the agenda as such?
So moved.
Okay. Second. Everybody came at me at once. Where's Scholars? Taking minutes. I believe it was Tony that made the motion. Somebody on this side of the table seconded. Candy seconded. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right. If you recall, at our last meeting, we talked about issues, and we came up with about 10 different issues, and we put them in a category of 4 categories: education, limits in water quality, legislative items, and predation management. And those are our 4 set priorities. And I know some of you have been working hard to try to work on those subcommittees. And at this time, I'd like to call on those subcommittees for a report. And Cindy was gracious enough to work on the education part. So, Cindy, would you bring us up to date where we might be on that? I mean, Candy, I'm sorry. Get it right in a minute. Sorry,
There's a lot of
Candy.
C's in here.
I had an opportunity to talk to Martin Cook, but we didn't have a lot of opportunity to talk a whole lot.
Can you all talk into your microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Martin Cook and I got to have like a 30-second conversation at one point. But for the education, one of the things that I would suggest for the education part is I got together with one of our local fishing groups, or fishing person actually, Chrissy Fulcher, and we talked about having a blessing of the fleet. This year is the 250th celebration of the country, and I think all of the counties are involved in that somehow. And so Chrissy and I are actually trying to figure out how to put together a blessing of the fleet kind of education thing at some of the festivals to promote the community. And Mr. Cook, I'm sorry, I hadn't had a chance to call you. But that was one of the suggestions that I've been working on, was to somehow incorporate it in the 250th celebration. Because that's going to be, and it's a year-long thing, so it's not like we have to go, on this date we can do this. We can incorporate it, or have a couple of people, maybe there's some folks out there who would like to travel around and promote the fishing. So that's kind of what I've been working on. I also talked to one of our local crabbers, and they have some things that they want to work on too. So I think that may be a godsend at this point, to be able to get everybody in front of a crowd to teach them something.
Candy, any thought? I know we talked about this at the last meeting. We want to reach out to, this coalition is a huge group of 20% of the entire state's 100 counties. And I think as all 20 of us, and we speak it with one voice, will have a huge impact. We discussed the possibility of doing maybe a 5-minute PowerPoint or something like that to educate our other county commissioners throughout the rest of the state. Was any thought given to that during your subcommittee thinking process?
There was, but like I said, it's been kind of a wild couple of months. So I'm hoping that we can move forward with that. I'd love to get some photos and things like that to be able to put that together.
Hey, Bob.
Yes,
If I could.
Lloyd.
So I was with Nick a couple weeks ago from the NC Seafood Festival, and I think one of the things they're trying to do when he was here at our last meeting. I don't see Nick here now, but he was talking about as being a component with NC Seafood as part of this education or this as you're talking about, and you know, I think they had a pretty sizable number of members in the fleet for the Blessing of the Fleet, but I mean the whole coast has Blessings of the Fleet during the springtime anyway. So I mean,
Right.
getting out there for that. So I just thought I'd let you know that, you know, NC Seafood is aware of that.
Oh, good.
And they did. Nick said that he took it to the board. A lot of the board members think it's a good idea to be able to, you know, continue that march. And so I thought I'd let you know that.
Great. Thank you, Lloyd. County Manager.
Chair.
In conjunction with what the chairman had suggested about the PowerPoint presentation, several years ago we had some issues with coastal insurance. And we went county to county and got on board agendas and made the presentations about coastal insurance. And I look around the table and I remember seeing some of you, I think that's where we met first, Marty.
We did.
It was pretty successful in terms of getting the message out, because each time you get on that agenda, most counties now are on TV. You can make your presentation, you can do whatever your ask is to those communities, and it's a good way to get broad-based support. There are a lot of counties. We only went to about 20 or 25, and I did most of those. You can't do 100 with one person, so you know, we could divide and conquer when we get this PowerPoint together, when we get to a place where we know what we're asking counties to do for participation. And it's a good way to reach out and get their support. So as an idea to put on your list.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, Mr. Allen's correct. He lit the fire on that insurance aspect, and I got involved with it and ended up going to Raleigh and a lot of places as a result of it. And yeah, I see this as several components. We have the fishing community, which is understood. We have the general public. And then when I left the meeting the other day, I called my colleague, who's the chairman, Mike Forte, and I told him about what I had discovered from listening to marine fisheries members about things like the bluegill catfish being an invasive species that was causing a reduction in the numbers of crab, and it's also the reduction of spots was a cyclical thing, the proliferation of the southern flounder, things like that, and also how good the water is here in North Carolina and the other perspectives of these components. And he said, my gosh, I didn't know these things. You know, we thought it was overfishing. We thought it was this kind of thing. I said, no, that's not the thing. So my thinking is, and as we had Mr. Leonard here, who was who's executive director of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, he said he would come along with us with respect to a documentary. We need to educate the county commissioners across the state from a PowerPoint perspective, but also other aspects. I would submit that probably with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners conferences, that we have some kind of component in that. Also, the North Carolina Beach and Waterway Association, a lot of individuals that are sitting here are associated with that entity, and I think continuing having those kind of conversations that will only strengthen our numbers and our resolve. And then that way, when we have something that's coming before the General Assembly, we can say knowledgeably, we can say, well, this is actually what's going on. This is actually what's taking place with this species. This is actually how this is impacting our communities and our state. And in that way, we can potentially bring forward a very strong and succinct argument whereas as a coalition, as a group, as a body, we can all come together, join forces, and be able to see that we can get these things brought across. So.
Absolutely, point well taken. As a matter of fact, Executive Director Leonard, Kevin Leonard, was at our meeting, board meeting this past Monday, and he reiterated exactly what he said at this coalition meeting, that any way that the NC, the county commissioners can help, he's more than willing to help. So I'm letting a few days go by, and I will certainly put that request on his plate.
He just called me.
And that, oh,
Right.
oh, good. Well, that's great. So he's,
Mr. Chairman, he also offered their video services.
Yes.
pardon?
He also offered their video services.
That's right, he
which
did.
are,
So, he
yeah,
did.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Thanks for
let's
reminding
use
us
it,
of that.
which is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mr.
that's
Chairman.
That's a great resource and big help to us. Glenn?
I'd just like to let Candy know that the North Carolina Fisheries Association can help in any way with education. We've got a lot of those facts. Our struggle has always been trying to figure out how to get them out to people.
Right.
And Chrissy is one of our board members, so you or Chrissy reach out to myself or Thomas Newman, and we'll do everything we can to help with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I'd also like to reiterate too, with Dare County Working Watermen's Commission, we did a video about 23 minutes about 3 years ago that coincides with everything on commercial fishing, and it's a timeless video. That's one of the things we really focused on when we made that, was to make sure it wasn't dated in any way. So there's also another resource that you can go off of that.
Steve, I know you mentioned that at the last coalition meeting. Is that something that's emailable?
Yeah, it's
that
on
we
our,
could-
it's on our Dare County YouTube channel.
Okay, but we can get a copy of that
Yeah.
and get it sent to the coalition members? If I'll remind Ms. Foley, our clerk, to remind me to ask that be sent to each of you to send that.
Chairman Woodard, I'd like to speak to a handout in regard to education that I provided to the group just before the meeting. In your, on your table, you'll have a letter from Barbara Garrity Blake, the president of North Carolina Catch, to Chairman Woodard. I am a board member at North Carolina Catch, and I've been working with North Carolina Catch on a legislative ask. We began this prior to House Bill 442, but House Bill 442 really reiterated the need for this type of legislative action. North Carolina Catch is a nonprofit that's dedicated specifically to education, and we work with local seafood providers and people. We really played a strong role in House Bill 442. We're working with our lobbyists to put together a legislative ask for the state to invest $500,000 to develop and maintain a leading brand and promotional campaign through the NCDA's Got to Be NC program, specifically for seafood. North Carolina lacks that as compared to other East Coast states, and particularly Gulf Coast states. We don't do a lot of PR for our fishermen or our fishing industry. Considering the state already has an active program with NCDA to promote North Carolina products, this would be the perfect place to house it. John Odelet, who's also a member of North Carolina Catch, has done a lot of work with us the last 10 years to try to promote seafood, but this would really put us into a position where North Carolina could also have a first-class promotional and educational campaign spotlighting our fishermen. And that, so to speak, also strengthens our numbers and our resolve, because we're not just looking at our county commissioners, but we're also recruiting citizens of North Carolina to step up to the plate and demand that opportunity to be able to have North Carolina seafood on their plates.
County Manager Noble, thank you for sharing that, and please ask to thank Barbara for this very, very respectful letter. She said we will add this to our list of asks
Yes, sir.
of our legislators.
I think this might be an easy one, though, as compared to some of our other asks.
I could not agree more. Could not agree more. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
Candy, anything else?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, anyone else have any questions of Candy or any other thoughts respectful to education? All right, moving on, our next item is limits and water quality. And, boy, Janet didn't hesitate to jump on that one at the last meeting. And, Janet, we appreciate anything you can share with us today.
So what I've been working on and trying to gather information on is the proposed, what's being proposed by the Marine Fisheries Commission with the blue crab stock assessment. So I'll share, I've really just gathered a lot of information. I did talk with the Director of Marine Fisheries, Kathy Rawls, and she shared the latest information in regards to the staff proposal, which has changed from what they originally were planning to do with cutting the females. And now they're looking at north of Highway 58 Bridge, a 30 bushel hard crab limit, September to December. Female, male, 30 bushel limit. South of Highway 58 Bridge, a 15 bushel hard crab limit, September to December. Prohibit crab trawling statewide year-round. Maintain all blue crab management measures, including existing season closures, and they are currently working on a new benchmark stock assessment for blue crabs. The blue crab FMP review is scheduled to begin in 2026. She shared that the one that they've been looking at did not pass peer review. So they really don't have to do anything, and she shared that as well, that when I say they, I'm talking the commission, the Marine Fisheries Commission. And they are getting ready to meet November 19th through the 20th at Wrightsville Beach. There are public comment periods on the 19th at 6 p.m. and on the 20th at 9 a.m. I also spoke with Mr. Sammy Corbett, the chairman of the Marine Fisheries Commission, and he said his biggest thing was that it be fair. You know, he didn't just want an across-the-board cut. You know, if this area was going to take a 10% cut, then it was only fair that another area did. Well, I've talked to some watermen in my area that are now crabbing, and they've been catching 50 to 60 bushels a day. And if they're cut to 30 bushels next year, that's a 40 or 50% cut. I've talked to some commissioners in areas that have picking houses, and that is going to hurt them terribly. It's also going to hurt some towns that rely on those picking houses to use a lot of water. You know, they have bonds and what have you that they have to pay for that county water that they have implemented, and if the crab house is not using all that water, it's going to hurt them there. There are lots of meetings that are set at fish houses and in communities within the next week or so. We've got one in my county coming up Friday night at the Barco Library. Fishermen, anyone interested is welcome to attend. It's at 6 o'clock. I emailed Skylar just this morning the contact information for all of the members of the Marine Fisheries Commission, their phone numbers, their emails, and if you are not able to go to Wrightsville Beach and speak at the public comments, perhaps you can call them or email them and share your concerns and how this is going to affect your county. And I think that's about it. Oh, we are having a short meeting. Anyone that would like to be on the committee, Glenn Skinner, I've been in touch with him, and he's going to have a little meeting with anyone that wants to work on this right after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. And thanks for sharing that list, telephone information, contact information with Skylar. We will certainly get that out to the coalition, because I'm not bashful about calling or writing either one of them. I will certainly do that. As a matter of fact, at our board meeting this past Monday, we did a resolution, and it's before you today. I'm sharing it with the coalition in hopes that each county will adopt something similar with respect to the proposed blue crab harvest restrictions.
That is one more thing. Currituck County did pass one on Monday night. Some of the resolutions I've seen that have been shared with us had what they were originally proposing, you know, the
Right.
females. So we did change it to their latest proposal. And one more thing, the chairman of Currituck County Commissioners, Paul O'Neill, is really concerned about water quality and how that's not being addressed as we're making these cuts. So he has directed our county manager to start getting something done, studies to find out the water quality in Currituck
Absolutely.
and the Albemarle.
That's critical. Like I say, each of you have a copy of a resolution that Dare County passed at its meeting this past Monday. And if you will share that with your boards, I believe our resolution, Janet, is up to date. If you'll share that with your boards, and I encourage you to ask your boards to adopt similar resolutions in opposition of the blue crab harvest restrictions. John Spruill was kind enough to share with me some information, a resolution in support of the North Carolina Coastal Counties Fishing Coalition's position, and I believe you have a copy of that in front of you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, will this be distributed to the county clerk's offices across the region by any chance? Because typically we get that in our packet from other jurisdictions and it's sent by email.
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
That'd be great, because
Yeah.
there's probably people that are not here, and that way
Yeah.
they would get that information.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll flood, y'all get tons of emails from me. You know, I try to keep y'all up to date on everything, but absolutely we'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
John, is anything you want to share with respect to what you sent me with that resolution in support of the coalition?
That is correct. That's correct, sir. But it was originally based off the original information that the Marine Fisheries was putting out as far
Right.
as, and of course that's changed as Janet
Gotcha.
has pointed out.
Gotcha.
So this was written a few weeks ago.
Okay, gotcha. Glenn, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, quite a few. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, but I think the most important thing here is, yeah, I think the most important thing here is we do not have a stock assessment. The stock assessment that they acted off of when they took the last management measures, they tried to update it last year, and when they added a few extra years of data, for lack of a better word, it went haywire. And they determined it could not be used. So we do not have a stock assessment for blue crab, therefore we do not have a stock status to say if it's overfished or if overfishing is occurring. We don't have estimates of current abundance, and therefore any reduction that they tried to make would be arbitrary. It'd just be based on somebody's opinion that you need to do something rather than a level of abundance that you're trying to maintain. So at this time, what the division needs to do is to produce a reliable stock assessment for blue crab, if that's possible, and I doubt that in many ways that's possible, because I think they lack a lot of the data they need. But that hurdle, in my opinion, has to be overcome before you start regulating the most valuable commercial fishery in this state. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Glenn. Yes, sir, Senator.
We made that very clear to Captain Ross, and in my office.
Great.
That they would not have a stock assessment, nothing to base it on, that meeting that was working to begin with.
Great.
We're strongly urging her to reconsider and make this just go away.
Yeah, even in the last Marine Fisheries meeting, when they had the biologist speaking to the commission questioned them on the viability of the information they had, and they admitted on several times, we're going on our best guesstimate of what's happening in our fishery. They didn't have any concrete evidence of what was going on. They just looked at projections from the original proposal and what the landings are now. And a lot of the slides that they also showed was there was a steady decline in landings for crab. And also right parallel with that line was the same effort by our fishermen. So obviously if you have less fishermen out there fishing, you're gonna catch less fish. It's as simple as that. Doesn't mean there's a crab population problem. One thing that I would suggest with the Fisheries Coalition with your resolution, which is the same one that we put out for Dare County, and like you said, it reflects the old and original, and we do know now that it's changed. I actually reviewed it the other day. So your 8th, whereas a proposed 5-month closure of the fishery and/or a 10-bushel limit would have some animal economic impact across the fisheries affecting our local communities. If y'all want to change that or strike that to reflect the new effort of what they're looking at now, would be an advice.
When I spoke with Kathy, she said what they're basing the staff recommendation on is triggers that they see. Because as Glenn said, they do not have a stock assessment that passed peer review.
Thank you, Glenn.
And this may sound as a negative comment, but I don't know of any other industry anywhere in the world, well, anywhere in the United States, where they're going to take away your right to make a living and feed people based on a trigger. I got a problem with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I got a problem with that.
They did it with the oil industry and global warming or whatever.
I think we all have a problem in that the legislative and regulatory bodies, and I've said this, and I will continue to repeat it because it's a fact, that the regulatory agencies are trying to shut down the oldest profession of mankind. And we're not gonna sit here and not fight that battle. We're gonna do everything we can to fight for our fishermen, so that our fishermen's families can make a living. And I don't know, I know everybody in this room feels the same as I, and that simple fact is, I want to eat local seafood.
Absolutely.
Because I know where the waters, and I know where it's coming from. You know, I'm not buying shrimp from Walmart that was shipped in here from Indonesia or no telling where. And I won't do it. We're going to do everything we can to protect our industry. And we're going to go down with a fight. And like I said, it's the oldest industry of mankind. After all, folks, who did our Lord and Savior have as the disciples? Fishermen.
Bob, I would like to make one correction. The
Yes, sir,
oldest
Lord.
trade is tool maker.
And here I was thinking it was something else.
Tool maker. They had to make tools, but they had to make fishing poles and nets. However, back to your, one thing I did want to make a statement on, is that if you look at your North Carolina river basins, it's pretty important to your clean water and where it's coming from. There's 17 river basins in North Carolina, 5 flow to the Mississippi River, the other flow into the Atlantic Ocean, 11 originate in North Carolina, and only 4 entirely contained in North Carolina. So Bob, back to your point about where they getting their assessments from, where are they studying the water quality, because there has to be limits of water quality in every one of those river basins by law. There has to be some point of point discharge information out there. So back to that point, Bob, I didn't need to digress to your agenda, but that was something, because I sat on the Albemarle, Chowan Pasquotank, Tarpam River Basin Committee one time, and they talked about everything from every creek there was and what was a creek. And that's what I think that we have to go to the creeks now to understand our water quality.
Gotcha.
So just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lord.
So, Mr. Chairman, are we going to amend this resolution update it, because we're slated to pass it at our November 17th meeting on the Blue Crab.
Yeah, the county manager made a good point. Janet, if you'll share that with all of the counties present here,
Okay.
and Chris, you can get a copy of it, and
We can update it.
you can
for our,
update it, and we can actually, actually revise ours as well. So, thank you, Chris. Anything else?
One more thing, if you were going to reach out to the Marine Fisheries Commission members, I highly recommend that you do it this week or next week, because once they get into that week of the meeting, they tend to get bombarded. I think they're more likely to listen to us prior to that last week.
And let me just remind you, if you do it with total respect.
Yeah.
Don't start throwing arrows and barbs and everything else at them. Do it out of science-based information and total respect for them, and I think we'll get a lot more distance with them from a standpoint of making some points made rather than just taking a shot at them. So, pardon? Yeah, and we can actually do one from the coalition if you'd like for us to draft something, if the coalition's willing for us to draft something.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
yes.
I would agree with that, and pass that around to all the counties so we can stay unified.
Whatever the final form would be, that'd be great, because I've got several pages of whatever the final form would be best, so we can pass that along to our board.
Okay.
How about if I communicate what I've got with Skylar?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll do that. Janet will do that, communicate that to our clerk, Skylar Foley, and then we'll shoot it to you. I'll shoot it to you folks before I send the final, in case y'all want to make any corrections or anything to it. How's that sound? Okay. Can y'all, can I ask for a vote for y'all to authorize me to sign it once y'all sign it? Okay. All right. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Janet, anything else?
That's it.
Thank you. That brings us to legislative issues. That monkey's on my back. You see my name under there. One of the concerns that the coalition had was certainly moving, trying to convince the legislation to move the marine fisheries to the Department of Agriculture. I haven't done anything in the form of a letter or request to our legislatures because I wanted to have this meeting first so that we could get all of our subcommittee reports in and talk about our current issues before I wrote a letter on behalf of the coalition. I will ask Senator Haney, do y'all have any clue when y'all might go back into session?
I don't know when we'll go back into session, and I'm pretty sure we don't have a clue.
So we have some.
Everybody get that?
Do you have a suggestion on maybe a timeline when I develop our list of concerns as to when we should approach the legislature?
I would say not until we come to our first session in '26.
Okay.
This time, we don't see ourselves going back before the end of the year.
Okay.
So that will probably be January,
All right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
On that letter, you're sending it to the legislature, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Senator.
Bob, if I may,
Yes, sir, Glenn.
just wanted to make y'all aware of something, Senator Hanig and Ed Goodwin, Representative Ed Goodwin, and the NCFA have been working on for a few weeks. And we're hoping about mid-December we'll have a meeting at the General Assembly, a stakeholder meeting, where we're going to bring in commercial fishermen, recreational fishermen, folks from DEQ, folks from the Division of Marine Fisheries, and sit down and talk about some of these legislative priorities that we all have, that see if we can find some that we can come to a consensus on, and if that works out, we'll certainly be reporting back, you know, to this group to let you all know where we're at. But we've been trying for several years to get everybody in a room together, to get past some of the misinformation, to get some facts on the table in front of some of our folks in Raleigh. And I think this is going to be the first step at doing that. Hopefully it works out. But I just want to make y'all aware that we are making some stuff, you know, strides in that direction, and we'll keep you in the loop. And one of the things I sent y'all prior to your last meeting was about North Carolina being the most restrictive state when it comes to managing our fisheries. And that's something we all need to be looking at and considering. You know, I've looked at this real closely. There's 23 coastal states. Only 2 in this country, North Carolina and California, have requirements to end overfishing or rebuild a stock within a certain timeline. And out of those 2, North Carolina is the most restrictive. We are more restrictive than California on how we manage our fisheries. And the CCA and former DMF Director Lewis Daniel got those statutes put in place in 2010. They tightened it up a little bit in the 2013 budget, and what we currently have now is a result of that. And I just want everybody, whether we try to change that or not, I want you to be aware, because one of the things we hear is there's no fish. There's this, there's that. Commercial fishing has destroyed everything. The truth is, we are the most restrictive state legislatively. And if you are, you're going to have the most restrictive regulations in the country. That's just the way it is. I don't care if you have fish or not. So I just want everybody to be aware that's a big part of the reason why you can't keep flounder. You can't, I can only go mullet fishing or trout fishing 4 days a week. It's because of these statutes, and that's what they're trying to meet when they're looking at this blue crab stuff and everything else. So I just want to make sure y'all aware that that's one of North Carolina Fisheries Association's priorities, to look at that statute real closely, and we'll be doing that in the near future.
Thank you, Glenn. Just, yeah, keep us posted on that. I appreciate that.
I have a question for Glenn.
Yes, ma'am.
Glenn, you mentioned earlier that you all really were catching the mullet this year. Do you know of anything that's been put in place, any rules where everything, like now, you're doing great with the mullet, where they relax the rules?
The only thing that has been relaxed in recent years that I'm aware of was the gill net closure up the Neuse and Pamlico River, and that's because we convinced one of our commissioners to put an end date on that. The CCA was absolutely opposed to closing that. It was closed to protect striped bass, supposedly, although everybody knows that wasn't the reason. They just wanted gill nets out of the area. And now they've determined that there's no way you're going to have a sustainable population of striped bass in those rivers because they're not spawning. And that one was lifted just recently.
Because you had that end date.
But that's it. And to your point, every time we put a regulation in place, we leave it. And if it doesn't work, we come back and we put another regulation in place. We don't do away with the previous. We just keep stacking them on and stacking them on and stacking them on until you've got to be a lawyer to understand what you can and can't do. And as you mentioned, I'm right now roe mullet fishing. It's the most mullets we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years that I've seen in my lifetime. And the last stock assessment said it was overfished and overfishing was occurring, and they cut us to 4 days a week to fish. And I got to tell you, any of you, it's hard to make your living dealing with weather and stuff as it is, much less when you're held to fishing between midnight on Monday and midnight on Friday, no matter what the weather is. And the catches we've seen over the last several years are huge. We're taking net off our boat, we're sinking boats, we can't pull the catches in, but yet somebody felt like there weren't no mullets. And that's a result of flawed data, flawed stock assessments. I'm not saying anybody's intentionally doing anything wrong, but I'm saying our state can and should do better. And we need to look at all of these fishery management plans and statutes very closely and try to figure out where we went wrong and what we do to get back where we need to be as a state.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Any other questions of Glenn with that? So that's where we are legislatively. I want to get through our current issues and the things that are before us and our requests before I get approval from you folks to start lobbying our legislators. So our next and final point was we talked about predation management, and I didn't really have anybody on the coalition membership to jump on board on this right away from the last meeting, but so I asked my public information officer, Ms. Hester, to do some research on this. Is Dorothy back there somewhere? Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon. As Chairman Woodard said, I'm Dorothy Hester. I actually was involved with North Carolina Catch back when it first started, so I was glad to see Chris coming forward with their request.
Is your mic turned on?
I think so.
It's green.
I think so.
Can
y'all
you
hear me?
folks?
Get closer to it.
Okay, I'll pull it off and talk to us.
There you go.
Okay. So, predation management. I've talked with several people, fishermen, mostly in Dare, and also with Sarah Mirabilio from Sea Grant, just to get a better understanding of what we might be looking at. And there are three different things, and I think one of them is probably more of a federal issue. That's the sharks and the fins, and also, you know, how they're affecting other species. The two that were of more interest were the blue catfish and the cormorants. I think cormorants was something y'all had up for discussion. I was kind of led to believe, is there anybody here with Watermen United? I think Watermen, I don't think anybody raised their hand. I did not have a chance to reach out to them, but apparently they have done quite a bit with predation management. So I'd kind of like to reach out and see if we can get someone there to take the lead with this, maybe with my offering some support for that committee. I did have one fisherman, a lot of y'all may know Dewey Himmelwhite, who's from Dare County. He's very active. He said, I don't know that y'all even need to mess with this, Dorothy. Are they sure they want to go there? I think there's a lot more important issues that need to be dealt with. So that's kind of where I leave it with you all, and would certainly take the lead of this group.
Any thoughts from the membership? Yeah, Glenn.
Yeah, to some degree, I agree with Dewey, at least with species that are not invasive species. You know, when you're talking about sharks or cormorants or red drum, obviously when you protect one species and it becomes more abundant, it's going to impact other species. There's no way around it. It's no different than on land. If you protect the fox, you're going to have less rabbits and quail. If you shoot fox, you're going to have more rabbits and quail. But when it comes to something like the blue catfish, I do think we should be doing more, similar to what Virginia's doing. These blue catfish were introduced into our state by the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, just like they were in Virginia and other states when striped bass populations were depleted back in the 70s. And yes, striped bass populations and other fish have been low in the past, despite what you've heard. Most of the states down the coast went and introduced stuff like blue catfish or other species so recreational fishermen would have something to fish for, not realizing the impacts it may have down the road. The difference with these other states, especially like Virginia and Maryland, they're kind of taking the bull by the horns in recent years and trying to figure out what to do to make sure that these blue catfish are not impacting their blue crab and their other species that are native. And I would say that that is one thing that all of us need to be focused on, is if it's not a native species, it should not be allowed to become so abundant that it's impacting our native species. But on these other ones, that's just real tough to try to regulate cormorants or sharks or red drum or whatever is that we happen to think is too abundant and may be impacting one of our other species that's also a native. So that's where I kind of feel we need to be on it.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. Point well taken.
Also,
County Manager?
yes, sir. This morning in our North Carolina Catch meeting, one of our Catch Board members, Ms. Shelby White, who's a North Carolina resident and from a North Carolina commercial fishing family, but she's currently doing a study with the Virginia Institute of Marine Science at William and Mary. She's actually studying the blue catfish as an invasive species, and so if the group does want to do further work in that area, she would, I've got her white paper and her abstract, and I can forward it to the group. She would love to assist us if we do want to go forward with that.
Great. Yeah, please share that with us.
I will, sir.
Yeah.
That's great.
Did you have something, Janice?
No, I don't.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, that brings us to current issues, and we've already talked about the blue crab issue. There's another concern out there with marine fisheries, and I think you've all already seen this. They're talking about a comprehensive review of the data that recognizes the need to take proactive steps to cap harvest on sheephead due to concerning stock indicators and fishery trends. Status quo is not an option, and the division will be implementing changes to sheephead management, and they plan on doing this January 1st. So I'd like to get some input from the coalition concerning this latest issue that Marine Fisheries has. Steve, you want to share some comments?
Yeah. The information that the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries has put out on sheephead, that's how thick it is. That's a lot of information. This is the time to talk with the marine fisheries about it. This is a time when they're trying to come up with a plan to manage it. That's when you talk to them. Because once the Division of Marine Fisheries comes up with a plan, after all the public comment, that is the plan, and they have recommendations. The North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission, when it goes before them, they have a chance to change those recommendations. But to change any recommendation that's on there takes a 2/3 majority vote of the Marine Fisheries Commission. And the way the Marine Fisheries Commission is lined up, that will never happen. So whatever the Division of Marine Fisheries puts in front of them as their recommendation, that's the way it goes. So now is the time when they're talking about the sheephead and making regulations for them, now is the time to talk to them before it gets to that point. And there are a lot of information in here. I've had a chance to go through most of it, and I think Glenn can probably attest, there's some falsehoods in here. And also to the fact too of why regulate a fish just because it's not regulated? Is basically what this comes down to. They are saying there's more pressure to fish the sheephead than ever has been before. Well, that's because they've cut out every other fishery in North Carolina. So if you can't catch anything but goldfish, what are you going to go fish for? So that's one of the main concerns on this whole thing. So I would encourage all of you to take and go through this draft, read it, understand it, and definitely go to the public comment meetings they'll be having across the state. They've already had 2 of them, the preliminary ones. They've had one of those last night.
Yep.
And I think they got another one coming up next week, I believe.
So.
And then after that, then they start going in, starting refining everything. And even if it's not a public comment, especially a group like this board coalition can actually submit in writing to Director Rawls, and she can direct her staff to make sure that they read that information that we give them, and for their concerns so they can formulate it into their documents as well. So now's the time to talk to them.
Yeah, is there a statement that the coalition would like for us to prepare and present to the marine fisheries concern in this? Lynn?
Bob, can I give y'all a little bit of background on this?
Yes, sir.
Just so you know where you're at. Under our state law, any species of coastal fish that's considered recreationally, commercially significant is supposed to be managed under a fishery management plan. And for multi-year species, you're supposed to have a stock assessment and a stock status. Unfortunately, for some species, Division does not have data to meet these state requirements, and it's never been challenged in court. I don't know how it would fall out if you did, but they've managed some of these species like sheep's head. They put a size limit in a while back. It's been in place for a while, and as you've heard, a lot of people are going sheep's head fishing now because they can't keep a flounder, they can't keep anything. And this all started a while back. One of our commissioners, Tom Roller, brought up at a Marine Fisheries Commission that he thought the bag limits, recreational bag limits, were too high in his opinion. No data to support it, no stock assessment, no stock status, just that he thought it was too high and that it should be looked at. And of course, after several meetings of bringing it up, this is what you end up with. And then they look for data. They provide data that says, you know, you may want to be concerned. We might not be seeing as many older fish in our surveys. We have no estimates of abundance. We have no stock status, no data to do any of that. So let's do something. That's how this all comes about, and that's where the Fisheries Reform Act set forward a process for managing these fisheries to get away from managing just that way, to where somebody raises their hand and say, I'm concerned about something, and then they lobby all their fellow commissioners, try to get a majority on board, and they do something. So that's one of our biggest concerns. I can't tell you about stock status of sheep's head, and nobody else in the state can either. We have no data. But we have got to either collect the data or they've got to restrain themselves before they regulate us all out of every fishery in this state just because Tom Roller's concerned about it. That's where I'm at on this issue. I think that's where the NCFA, our board's meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk to them about it, but I'm pretty sure that's where our board will be. It's just getting to the point that they don't have data, but they feel like the wise thing to do is to cut a fishery just in case there might be too much effort. We've seen that with speckled trout. Speckled trout abundance was the highest ever recorded, but they said in the last year of the assessment we might be overfishing, so let's all take a cut. With the most fish you've ever had. Of course, if it was the least fish you've ever had, we'd take a cut. And fishermen feel like we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. I'm not getting anything back if there's a lot of fish, and I'm going to definitely not get anything back if there's not. So we don't feel like we have anything to benefit from management right now. And I could go on for hours about this stuff. It seems to be every fishery, striped mullet, sheep's head, speckled trout. It doesn't matter, false albacore. North Carolina is the only state that's managing a worldwide species, false albacore. No stock assessment, no data, no management by the federal councils. North Carolina alone is somehow going to manage false albacore across the entire world.
And this was brought about by the same commissioner.
And that's where we're going to, and that's where I don't have recommendations for you right now, but you all need to be aware of where this is coming from. It's that CCA agenda, Tom Roller, CCA member, and they just want to keep cutting our fisheries, cutting recreational bag limits. And I know we're all here primarily talking about commercial, but those recreational fishermen of this state that like to harvest a fish and take it home to eat, not just catch and release, they're impacted just as severely, if not more severely, than the commercial fishermen in this state. And this agenda that's driving it is really dividing both. It's causing us to fight over scraps. It's just got to the point it's sad here in this state. And I just wanted to give you all that background so you know where this was coming from, that it's not driven by some huge concern over a lack of sheep's head. It was just brought up by a commissioner, and then they push and they push until the division says, well, we looked at the data and there might be reason to be concerned. Let's do something. So I'll leave it at that, but it's frustrating to say the least.
Thank you, Glenn. Will you share with me, after your meeting, whatever decisions, thoughts y'all have, so that I can in turn share it with the coalition?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Pardon? Well, that's my next thing. The county manager, he interjected that, and that's why I said, is there a statement or resolution that the coalition would like to present to the marine fisheries concerning this? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I literally am a layman. And my son has been a captain and that sort of thing, but I don't know anything about fishing. I don't throw a hook in the water. I don't have a boat. I don't do any of this stuff. I'm on this thing because it's a coastal issue and it's our constituents' livelihoods, and I think it's being unfairly the way it's done. But I'm sitting here and I'm aghast at this. We have catch limits that are arbitrary. There is no data. Then we turn around and we find out we're being lobbied by some interest group that wants to be able to sit here and restrict the bag limits. And then we find out they got flounder that you can walk on, but you can't harvest them because they're being overfished. And I'm sitting here, I'm a layman, and I'm sitting here looking at this thing at a 30,000 foot level, and I'm saying, somebody's nuts. How in the world did we get to this point? Because, as you just stated, so we have the sheephead. Will we overfish? Well, why do we? Because you can't harvest anything else. Well, that should be common sense. How do we get back to some basis of fact to whereas if we're going to regulate everything, how do we regulate it? I don't know, because you've got marine fisheries on one side and you've got wildlife that's introducing something that's invasive to begin with, and then not that, you've got the General Assembly being lobbied by certain groups. How do we get back to some basis to whereas it makes sense as to how we make this a manageable perspective for all of North Carolina? I don't know that answer, and that's why I'm sitting here, my head's spinning. I just don't know the components.
I could not agree more. Could not agree more. That's why I suggested we form this coalition to see if we could tackle that. And I'm hoping we're making some progress. I feel like we are. I know that we certainly are. Everybody at this table is unified in the concerns that we share. Once again, I'll ask the members if we should tackle this as well with the resolution. We're happy to prepare one, send it to you for your approval, if that's the pleasure of the coalition.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if
Yes,
I make a
sir.
recommendation on that? Just type up what Glenn said and put your letterhead on it.
Say that again. You want each individual county, is that what you're saying?
No, just type up what Glenn just said and put your letterhead on it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and if I could, like I say, our board's meeting tomorrow, and we're going to talk about this, and I'll certainly pass along our position to you if you all want to send it out to the rest. It's a tough issue because you don't know. There's nothing to base a decision on. So Jess Hawkins just come up to me and said that we could ask the division to do what they're supposed to do anyway and have a sheep's head fishery management plan, which makes sense. It's required by law. The question is there data and what will they base it on? And I think that's what I need to talk to my board about and try to get an understanding of if they abide by law and have an FMP like they're supposed to, can they do any different than what they're doing now? Can they come up with a stock status? Can they come up with estimates of abundance and fishing mortality so that we would know that if something was implemented, it wasn't arbitrary, it was based on a known. And that's what we're struggling with on almost every one of these plans. If you're going to manage our industry, and we don't mind being regulated, but we want it based on a known. And we want to know that it's going to benefit something down the road, and that we're also all going to benefit. Recreational and commercial are going to gain something when we get to wherever that magic level is we want to be. And until they can draw that line and say, all right, here's the threshold where we want to be, it's real hard for me to recommend that we do an FMP or anything else, because what will they base it on? So it's really tough, and we're struggling to figure out where we need to be as a state, how we get that information, when you all have these groups pressuring to be conservative, be conservative, be conservative. We're already the most conservative in the nation, in my opinion. What else do we have to do? You know, obviously, if we listen to the CCA, it's banned commercial gears. And they'll tell you, oh, we don't mind commercial fishing, just their gears. That's like saying you don't mind a carpenter, but you can't use a hammer and a saw. I can't fish without commercial gears. So we're kind of all in the same place, and I think what we're all going to gain through all this is knowledge. We're going to educate each other, and eventually we're going to come up with suggestions. But the NCFA, we've got some, but we're struggling the same as you all to figure out how we got here and how we put the brakes on and get to a better place, because it's got crazy. It's got too crazy. And I think that's what brought us all here together. It got so crazy that we could not ignore it no more.
Absolutely.
And that may be the best thing that happened down the road.
Well, I think, Lynn, the straw that broke the camel's back was the trawler ban. I think that's what, that was the straw that broke the camel's back that brought us all together. I had an epiphany coming back from Raleigh that day. So we can't continue to go down this road. We've got to do something, and then that's why I suggested forming this coalition.
Glenn, to answer your question, no, they can't do it. They can't do it objectively, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
And again, y'all said it really well, but the idea behind this group is so when these issues do come up, that we can argue it intelligently. And that's been the problem in the past, is we didn't know enough to stop it. So that's why we're here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There's another aspect to this too that goes a little bit deeper. Glenn was talking about state law and doing the fish management plans. Part of that state law is in that plan, it has to have a comprehensive study of an economic impact to your communities. Every single fish management plan that I have ever read has about 2 to 3 paragraphs of word salad that basically says you're going to catch less fish, you're going to make less money, but it doesn't give you a definite answer of how much that's going to impact your fishing business or the community. And those are required. And I asked Director Rawls about that specifically, and she says, I don't have an economist on my board in her agency that could do that for every fish management plan. Yet it's required that they do it.
Yeah. And if I may touch on that, under state law, if you're doing rulemaking, you do have to have an economic impact analysis. It has to go through that process. With our fishery management plans, the Division of Marine Fisheries and the Marine Fisheries Commission are not using rulemaking. They are implementing these through proclamation, and under proclamation, that is not required. There's also no oversight. It does not have to go to the Rules Review Commission or any of that thing like the rulemaking process does. So, in our opinion, the commission and the division have circumvented the rulemaking process, and that's stuff we need to look at down the road. Of course, you can't get all this in one meeting, but that's stuff we all need to be thinking about when we get our legislative priorities together. How do we clarify that? How do we make sure there is a process that these FMPs have to go through for legislative review, just like the rulemaking process? But we also don't want to tie the state's hands to where they're any slower than they already are with management, because every time we get a management plan, we're already 2 to 3 years behind the stock assessment. So we're acting on an abundance that they estimated for 3 years ago today, and that's why we're trying to have these meetings in Raleigh. This is so complicated. It sounds simple. It's really just like managing money. If you know what you spent, you know what you make, and you know what you have in the bank, you can manage your money. We don't know how many fish we have in the water. We don't know how many are born each year, and we don't know how many are killed each year, but we're trying to manage them. And that's where this gets complicated. And then when you throw an agenda in that wants to get rid of one sector completely, obviously that's where it gets crazy. So this is all good conversation, and I think we've all got to figure this stuff out. How do we get this process streamlined? How do we get oversight on the process? How do we make sure we're managing our fisheries on fact rather than agenda? I think if we could figure that out, we'd have it made, but it's not simple, or at least not in my mind it's not.
Sounds simple, but it's not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bob?
Mr. Chairman, I think
what we're dealing with here is probably endemic of both the federal and the state level, not just for fishing, but for a whole lot of other things. In Chowan County, 3 years ago, NCDEQ had a hearing on a wind turbine farm. And it was fait accompli. Before they had the hearing, they knew they were going to approve it. And they did approve it. And the reason they approved it, in my humble opinion, is because there are people that work at NCDEQ who are hired to regulate that industry. And it's just like what we're talking about with fish now, and it's just like anything else that you get into. There are people whose livelihood, not the fishermen, the bureaucrats, depend on regulating something, because if they weren't regulating something, they'd all be sitting there looking at one another, and pretty soon they'd get laid off or fired. So I think that we really need to get this back to the General Assembly and ask them to get this whole regulatory issue under some sort of control. That's my position. I just see it all the time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Point well taken, Commissioner Turbin. So back to, we'll draft something on this sheephead, and we will, I'll send it out. We got to move quick on this. I'll send it out to comments, and if I have your permission, without any drastic changes to the resolution, we'll forward that to the lead fisher. Yeah, absolutely. Glad I got that attorney sitting next to me. I need y'all's vote to authorize me to sign it once we do this.
Second.
Motion is second, and all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Any other, I know we're on issues, I know we talked about the major issues with the crab and the sheephead. Is there anything else that we might have overlooked at this point that we need to discuss? That's a current issue.
Can I just share some good news?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman, can I just share some good news?
Some good news.
Can I share some good news?
Yes, let me listen from Commissioner Matthews first.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think he had something.
I've been listening to Mr. Skinner, and I so full of information, and I wanted to, you made the point about, we were talking about sheep's head, we talked about several things, and economic impact. A lot of the regulations that we deal with, not just with fishing, but you know, are we talking about economic impact when we talk about ferries and roads and that sort of thing? And you talk to these people, professors from universities, it's like, no, we're not thinking about economic impact. That upsets me. And you know, when it comes to sheep's head, that's one of the main fish that we sell at the retail store in Ocracoke. The speckled trout, this past winter, this knee-jerk reaction to the freeze that we had. I don't know a lot about it, but I know all of a sudden it's like the speckled trout, you know, you see a few that get frozen and stunned, and then you have this knee-jerk reaction that we got to do something about it when there's no, once again, scientific data to support everybody I know that's speckled trout fishermen, like myself. I'm a recreational fisherman and used to keep 10 fish, and it went to 4. What is it now? 1. So, you know, that is discouraging to the recreational industry. The new regulations that just started, documentation of all the fish that we're going to catch. So every fish I catch now, and it's like, well, in one side you're going to get the data. That's what we're complaining about, and I hope that works. I don't know how it's going to work, and obviously it's going to take a little bit of time to get that data. It's going to be more than a year before we see results. So I have concerns about that and how effective that's going to be. And but to make one good point today, as I came over on the Cedar Island Ferry from Ocracoke, 20 trawl boats, at least. There were at least 20 trawl boats in sight working the Pamlico Sound today. So
There's 22 on the beach right
Yep.
So I'd say it affects more than 30 families.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Senator, say that?
Yeah, so yesterday I had a legislative update at the White House, and Bobby Kennedy was one of the speakers, and of course, you know, had to bring up the trawl ban. And so I asked him about that, and he is very engaged in the shrimp issue. He's still working on a lot of regulations regarding the foreign shrimp and the testing. He made me aware of a couple of issues. So a boat comes from Japan or wherever, Indonesia, wherever, full of shrimp, comes to the port, they test it, and they say, no, you can't bring this in the United States. So they leave that port, and they go to another port. Well, guess what? It didn't come from Indonesia. It came from another port. So it doesn't have to be inspected.
Exactly.
How about that? That's a challenge.
I thought you said you had some good news.
No, what I'm telling you is he's working on that. And that's, you know, there's a lot of issues that we don't know are happening. And it's like that with any import. It's called port hopping is what it's called. And the president's working on trying to figure out how to stop that. So that's a big issue for us. He's very well aware of it, and he's taken the steps to do it. Working on labeling issues, more predominant labeling issues. He is fully vested in making sure that this shrimp does not get to our states. He's fully vested in promoting American seafood products. He is very passionate about it. He is on our side. He's a good person to have on our side. So that's good news for us. So he's on it. So just want to pass that along.
Incredible. Can't make this stuff up. All right, thank you all for all of those comments there. Next steps is we'll act on what we've talked about today, and I'll take Senator Hoenig's advice that we'll get something as far as legislative items together by at least February, so before they get back into session, and take care of that as we move forward concerning next steps. I do want to share with you, Lynn's had Tom Newman send me this. Tom wrote me an email on Monday. I was in the middle of my Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. He sent me this email. He said, Glenn asked me to send you a copy of the lawsuit. This is just an FYI for you sitting here today, by the CCA against the state of North Carolina. He said it would be good if our attorney looked at it and we made the coastal counties aware of it. This, he said, I want you to pay special attention to the claim made by CCA that recreational or public fishing is a constitutional right, while commercial fishing, in their opinion, is merely a privilege afforded only by statute. Their interpretation of the right to hunt and fish does not align with ours, and it would set a dangerous precedent if the courts would agree with CCA. We wanted you to be aware of this lawsuit that CCA filed just recently.
Yep, and this lawsuit was filed, I believe, in 2020. It's been hanging out there. I believe it's going to go to court in January. And everybody kind of gets hung up on the claims that the CCA makes that the state has mismanaged their fisheries by allowing gill nets and shrimp trawls to destroy everything. They've got to prove that in court. They can't prove that in court, but what they can do is get a judge to rule that commercial fishing is not a right. If commercial fishing is not a right and recreational fishing is, every time that commission meets to talk about managing somebody, who do you think they're going to manage? I've listened to the early stages when this went to court, and every time the CCA attorneys have said, if somebody has to take a cut, it cannot be the fishing public. They don't consider commercial fishermen to be citizens of this state, who under our Constitution, all citizens have a right to fish. They consider us to be private entities because we're commercial. We are private businesses. I don't know how they don't see charter for hire as the same, but I don't want to get into that. But I just want you all to be aware that this is going to be going to court. The state is going to be defending, hopefully, in an adequate way, you know, because it's up to the General Assembly. The NCFA tried to enter into this as a party, and a judge ruled that the NCFA cannot uphold our Constitution, and since it's a constitutional claim, even though this would impact our members, we cannot be a party in the case. Now, that does not mean that every county in this state couldn't file a Friends of the Court brief or something to let them know their concerns, but to date, the North Carolina Wildlife Federation has filed a Friends of the Court, or Friends of the CCA brief, is what I call it. They filed a brief in support of the CCA's lawsuit, and this will be going to court in the near future. And I just want to make sure you all are aware of it. It's been hanging out a while, but most people don't seem to be aware of the lawsuit and do not have any idea what they're claiming in this lawsuit. So I just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'll send that email to the coalition. But thank you, Glenn, for sharing that. We now come to member comments. I'll go around the table here and ask if any of you have any comments for the day. Tony, would you just start it off?
Yes, sir. I guess it's a word. I just want to recognize one of my fellow commissioners, John Davis, wanted to come today. I asked him to come to see what we're doing. The more education we can do to our public as a whole, I think the better off we're going to be. You know, I got Sneed's Ferry and Swansburg in my county. Not a lot of commercial fish, especially Sneed's Ferry dropped. There's only a handful left there, but I want to protect, by God, what their families brought. And we lost an icon this past week, Mr. Tim Millis, 93 years in the commercial fishing industry. And it's sad because their families are trying hard to keep going. And I want to say we're going to fight. I'm going to fight as long as I'm alive to protect what we know is ours, and as you said, Mr. Chairman, from the beginning of time. So I'm proud to be part of this organization and going to continue to fight. And thanks, Steve and Glenn. Thank you so much for what y'all do. We need it. And that's my comment, sir.
Thank you, Tony. Randy, you got anything?
I think I said just a few minutes ago what I needed to say. I do like to reiterate the point that I think somebody made about how the CCA and the Wildlife Federation like to pit the recreational against the commercial, which that doesn't need to be. It's not a real thing. I've never felt threatened or felt like I couldn't catch a fish because of a commercial fisherman.
Right.
I'd just say thank you to everybody for just pulling this group together. Hyde County, we've been battling regulations for my whole life, and certainly my whole career, and there are power in numbers, and we certainly do appreciate everybody coming together and making this priority.
I want to thank you all for welcoming me here today. My cohort, Tommy Everett, sends his regrets he couldn't be here today, but I wanted to go ahead and elaborate a little bit for Terrell County on the crabbing issue a little bit while I had a second, because it is vital to our economy. Most of y'all know, and I'm sure Tommy shared too, you know, we are the smallest county in the state and have very little money, but the Captain Neal Seafood in downtown Columbia is the largest crab processing facility in the United States, or domestic anyway. And I was on the phone with Tara Foreman, who's the manager of that, my family owns it, on the way down here today. And she told me that this 30 bushel limit is really going to decimate them bad. I mean, she said that was about 50 to 60% of what they're harvesting in that time frame right now, and about 50 to 60% of what it takes for them to process in that September, October time frame. And she said just to be able to be at full capacity, she would have to have every crabber go every day to be able to make capacity. And she said there is no way that that could happen because you have smaller crabbers and they need to have a day off or whatever. And she said it's just going to decimate them. And I'm hopeful that through this coalition and through our county's lobbying for that, we can at least head that off a little bit. So it's going to be a detriment to our community because they're definitely the largest private business in Terrell County. So thank y'all again for having me.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and be involved with this. I got involved with this because Bobby Outen. Bobby Outen he's one of my heroes, and he's one of these guys that you really ought to be proud to have him there in Dare County and do whatever you got to do to keep him because he's just really a great asset. But you know, I remember years ago I wanted to learn about photography, and I picked up a trade magazine called Popular Photography, and I didn't understand any of it. It was like reading Greek. And within about a year or two, it was like, no big deal. I was just reading it just like it was not a big deal. I came into this thing thinking, now this is pretty simple. This is seafood, you know. I started listening to Glenn Skinner and Steve House, and I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, it's outside my pay grade. But somebody here said, I think Glenn said it, if we educate ourselves, we're going to become educated, and then we're going to be able to bring forth, viable aspects to this conversation. And that's what I want. I want to be able to champion the people that are involved in the harvesting of seafood, not only from a recreational aspect, but people make their livings in it. Because I've had people after person say to me, well, my daddy used to do it, and my granddaddy used to do it, and I can't afford to do it anymore. Well, why we're not doing it? It's because we've overregulated it. It's not overfished, it's overregulated. So hopefully we can be able to turn this ship around. And it may be a train on a track that's going to be very hard to do, but I think if each one of us put some effort forward toward this thing, we can certainly turn that track around. So thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
First thing I want to do, Representative Celeste Cairns reached out to me this morning. She was supposed to be here. She was flying in from D.C. and her flight this morning got canceled, so she weren't going to make it. And she just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that she intended to be here. She couldn't. Beyond that, I want to thank y'all for bringing me on as a consultant. And I am a consultant, so Bob's got my contact information. I don't know what y'all know, what you don't know. We've been working several years to try to educate ourselves on this because it is so complicated. We've gained a lot of knowledge in recent years, and we've got a lot of good folks like Jess Hawkins here behind us with a lot of experience that can help. So if you have questions, specific questions, email me, call me. Just let me know. We'll do what we can to answer them. Beyond that, we're working on some stuff. We've got a comprehensive management of southern flounder. I finished that up last week. We're going to get it cleaned up and send it to you, just so you'll know what's really happened, because there's a lot of misinformation. We're working on this for blue crab and other species, but it would be helpful if each one of you just send questions. I'll get to them as I can, but that's the quickest way I know for me to help educate y'all. So if you'll do that, reach out to me. I'll be happy to do what I can and pass information along that I can't answer to people who can. So thank you.
I'll repeat myself again, like I said from the last meeting. I am not a recreational fisherman. I am not a commercial fisherman. But I am a county commissioner. I have constituents that have very hard ties to commercial fishing. And when I first ran for office, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And so I started really diving into it. And not only did I find out it was an issue in Dare County, it was an issue all up and down the state of North Carolina. I've been at this now for 10 years. If you put that in perspective, if I would have gone to college and medical school, I'd be a doctor right now. Do I still understand all of the fisheries like I would if I was a medical physician? No. But I'm doing the best I can to educate myself and to educate others and to point out things that are going on. My father was an Episcopal minister. Even though I don't know how to fish, I do know right from wrong. And that's what I can see wrong. Senator Hagan can vouch that there's been plenty of times I've gone to Raleigh when legislative stuff was going on, and I would talk to a representative, and I would tell them that staying still. I'm not a commercial fisherman, I'm not a recreational fisherman, but I know right from wrong. And that would get my foot in the door to talk to them, because they knew I didn't have a specific agenda. I just wanted to point out what was being wrong. So if there's anything that that I can do to help educate either yourself or to the public, or even if you got something that might educate me, I'm all open to learning new things as well. I appreciate everything that y'all are doing to help, and I also want to thank the chairman for appointing me to being a consultant on this forum, and I appreciate everything you do, and may God bless us, and maybe we can get some changes done. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I recall that at our first meeting, I made reference to another fishery in this state that is now dead, and that is, it's been 19 years, next year will be 20 years since you've been able to legally catch and keep a river herring in North Carolina. And that's a fishery that goes back 10,000 years, before we were here, really. And the state decided it was overfished, we need to cut back on this. If they said tomorrow we can start doing it again, it wouldn't recover, because the people that knew how to do it, that know how to do it, are gone. People have died off. It's a certain technique that they used, and I've got friends, they've showed me how, but they can't show me the results because it's illegal to have them. I think if we don't step forward now with what we're talking about, with the shrimp, with the crabs, with the other finfish, we're going to be looking at the same thing. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator?
I say the same thing every time, but the same thing remains. We have an opportunity right now like we've never had before, and we need to make sure this group stays together. We finally get to tell our story. It's never happened before. We've never had this opportunity. So stay with it. I know there's going to be times where we feel like we're not making a lot of progress. It's very convoluted, Martin. I didn't know anything about fisheries when I became in politics not long ago. So someone told me to have lunch with Dewey Himmelwright. It was a 7-hour lunch. No beer. Horrific. It's horrific. And I came out understanding about 5% of it, truly. It's very convoluted, it's very complicated, but we have to be able to speak somewhat cohesively when the issues come up. So keep paying attention, keep at it. We'll get there. I'll make sure we get there. Yeah, so, and y'all know I'm a resource anytime, so ring me up.
I came from Virginia about 35 years ago, and I came from the mountains, so I don't know anything about fishing. I just wanted to find a place where I could live, where other people wanted to come and vacation. As a bartender, that's how you make a living. So to be here now and involved in this is such an honor for me. I worked for 20 years in the Soil and Water Conservation District in Pamlico County. I became very aware, coming from Northern Virginia, outside of DC, I learned that farming was bad, the chemicals they used will kill you, and that all of the water in the ditches is poison. So imagine my shock when I walked out into the fields of Pamlico, 45,000 acres, thank you very much, and I was like, there's life everywhere. And I watched what they did to the farmers, because of course we're tied into USDA. I watched how they regulated that. I watched the programs. I watched how we put the programs into effect. I watched how they changed the rules. I watched how they eventually put all of their lovely programs that were supposed to help the farmers as a detriment. I have never understood why you want to kill your food growing people. And then during the noose rules, and all of that happens, because our main focus was water quality. And then I learned that all the news rules failed, and they have failed. They haven't changed the water quality at all. Water quality is as bad, it's deteriorating, and they can't tell you why. They've done all the studies, and they're still trying to put all the blame on the farmers, while they have lovely outfalls in every town, in every sewer department along the river. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So kind of falling into, and I live in Oriental, and so that's where I met Chrissy and Keith Bruno and a whole bunch of people who fish, and it kind of fit in with the farming thing. And so this kind of just seems like a natural way to grow, because one of the things that I have always hated is injustice. And I think what they've done to the farmers and the fishermen is such an injustice that it just makes me want to fight more. So, thank you.
Well, I grew up in Knott's Island, and I don't know when I haven't had fishing a part of my life. You know, both grandparents, both sets had fishing and hunting lodges. My daddy was a guide part-time. He was also a civil service employee, and then I married a commercial fisherman and a hunting guide. And I've always enjoyed eating fresh seafood, and I've always, since I married Paul, the commercial fisherman, always felt like their back was up against the wall. And I became, you know, very involved and spoke for the commercial fishermen, and eventually served on the commission. And that commission, when you've got 3 recreational and 3 commercial and a scientist, and like you're talking, you got to have 2/3 of the vote. And it's not an effective commission, in my opinion. It's just not. And when I look out here on this front row and I see all these former employees of marine fisheries, I am very encouraged to see them here. And they know what we're talking about. They know, they feel our concerns, because they probably had to make recommendations as staff that they really didn't believe in. So I'm encouraged, and I want to thank all of them for being here today. And thank you so much for establishing, Mr. Bob, this coalition, because I'm hearing from commercial fishermen, they are just so thankful. They want to fall down and kiss your feet that somebody's finally trying to help them, because they don't feel like they're listened to. And a lot of times they don't know how to speak in a respectful manner. They are very passionate and feel like for years they haven't been listened to, and they come across wrong. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. Anything else? Yes, sir. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All I got is in North Carolina public education, and I know that's not a whole lot, but all the concerns we've had here today boil back to one problem, and the problem is DEQ. Whether it's scraping sand off the road to Highway 12, or you're washing the houses away to Rodanthe or Buxton, or trying to get a permit to put a boat ramp down here on Highway 24, 4 or 5 years in the making, when they want us to study, they want us to have greater oxygen level in the basin than they do in all of Bogue Sound, which doesn't make sense to me when the receiving waters have less oxygen than you're supposed to have in the creek. DEQ is the problem, and I'm assuming marine fisheries falls under DEQ, doesn't it, Jess, Mr. Cornell? The way the fisheries are managed is the problem, and I thought we were real close to maybe getting under the Department of Agriculture. So maybe Bobby, I had lunch today with Senator Bobby Hannon. Hopefully he'll be the next U.S. Congressman for District 1 that represents all the eastern counties in North Carolina. And
I did not pay for that advertisement.
I did task him with, we've got to do something with DEQ. Honest people like Jess and Mr. Cannell that were used to be with the marine fisheries, who give truthful data, it's all been ignored. They've got head boats, sport fishing boats, the people that take people fishing for a living, they got them grouped into recreational category. Really, they're commercial fishermen. They take people for a living. So they put the people in the numbers to get the results that they want. So we've got to redo how the fisheries are managed, and quite frankly, who manages the fisheries, in my opinion. We can have these meetings every month, but until we get some pressure in Raleigh and get under a different format, we keep spinning our wheels. So we need somebody else managing the marine fisheries.
Chris, that conversation is still ongoing. That conversation is still ongoing. We're making progress.
Excellent. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chris.
Good afternoon. All I would add is when you're ready, we have available meeting dates. If you want to set the next meeting, I have that available. And I would also say that I believe that we do have a constitutional right to pursue a living, and that includes commercial fishermen. So I find the legal argument really interesting, and hopefully somebody with some wisdom will consider that. So the other thing I would say is if we can't move marine fisheries under DEQ, can we look at amending the underlying state law that gives them the charge that they have to regulate every single fish, even when they have absolutely no scientific information about it? I think it's time that we started looking at the state law that supports all of these agency decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk about those dates here shortly. Well, first, I'll repeat this. I've said it at each meeting. I can't thank each and every one of you for being a part of this coalition. It really is refreshing to know that we have 20 counties, 19 counties that are committed to protecting our fishing industry, and I can't thank you enough for your commitment to doing this, and we'll certainly take Senator Hanig's suggestion to us is that stay focused, stay together, and as long as I'm chair of this, we'll certainly continue to do that, and we'll move forward, and I feel confident we can make some headway and some progress. And then finally, Senator, thank you for always being here, always having our back. You've been at every one of these meetings, and I can't thank you enough for your support and always being there for us. Appreciate it. At this time, I'll open it up for public comment. If anybody has any public comment, we have a microphone right over here to my left, your right. If you'd like to make public comment, you're certainly welcome to do so. Please state your name and where you're from.
John Davis, County Commissioner with Onslow County. Chairman Woodard, thank you for your leadership. It is obvious just at being here and pulling everybody together in the respect you have. And thank you for pulling everybody together. Commissioner Padgett, thank you for inviting me today. This has been outstanding. My one encouragement that I would offer, and I kind of heard the rumblings of it about the video and such, and I would absolutely just encourage you guys to take the public relations battle piece of this. I think you guys have an amazing story. I grew up eating fish. Catching fish skipped a generation. My kids are great at catching fish. My dad and granddad were great at catching fish. I'm terrible. But fishing has been in my family. Clamming has been in my family. They grew up on the Cape Fear River. I'll keep my story there. But I'll just say y'all have an amazing story to sell. And I think there's a public relations battle that you can very easily win. And I just encourage that. So thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate you being here. Anyone else?
My name is Chris McCafferty. I'm a commercial snapper grouper fisherman here in Moorhead. I gave the Make Fishing Fun Again pamphlet there. So there's a lot of things I'd like to talk about. First, I'd like to thank you all for what you're doing. And I heard some different things being said. Arbitrary came up a lot. There's a lot of things that are arbitrary about the way our fisheries are being managed. And I think we should look at offering some solutions rather than just saying no to a lot of the bad ideas that have been coming out by the CCA and others. And so in that little paper there's some information, ideas that I think could help. One of them would be to remove the hard rebuilding deadlines on all the fish. Flounder and red snapper were an HB 442, and that was an ice red snapper fish offshore. So we have 5 million pounds of waste in that fishery from presumed dead discards. And so that's because of the hard rebuilding deadlines. Remove those, transfer those dead discard allocations to harvestable quota, and you solve most of the problem for flounder and the red snapper. So, and then you take away the excuse to ban shrimping or do other things that would proceed to help, but they really are just to give control to one group rather than to all consumers of seafood and all citizens of North Carolina. And I also think we should look at enhancing our fisheries, using hatcheries to incubate fertilized eggs from local specimens, do it regionally across the state, and just make more fish. It is creating a commodity that is worth money, that it generates revenue for the state, creates more recreational opportunities so they can have reasonable bag limits that makes it worth going fishing for. And the commercial fishermen can continue supplying seafood sustainably forever to the public. And there are ways that we can manage this so that it benefits everyone and the resource, not just one group or the other. And I don't want to take up too much time, but I am happy to talk with anyone about this. My email address is on the paper. Please take time to read it, and feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, and I have your written comments, and I will email them to the coalition members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, I want to make a comment on something you just said. Out west, in the rivers and streams, and Jeff, you could back me up on this with a dollar amount, but every year they catch every fish out there. And every year we put eggs, we grow fish, we put them back in the water so they can catch them all again.
Yeah.
It's over $1 million every year. But we do nothing for our coastal fisheries to do that. It's kind of crazy to me. I've made that argument many times. So, yeah.
So, yes, exactly. And with our waters here, we can just incubate these eggs and just turn them loose by the billions. Let natural selection ensure survival of the fittest. And what gets eaten helps the food chain. And, and it's just a matter, we can stain the odorless before we release them so we can get an amount of what is the survival rate. And then we can set hatchery-supported quotas like we have in the mountain streams. We don't have to catch them all every year. And we would want them naturally reproduce to help benefit the rest of the stock. So it's a win-win for everybody. A 1% restocking fee on all retail seafood sales would give consumers equal standing to the commercial fishermen and the recreational industry, and allow them to contribute to this, probably fully fund the stocking of the seafood for everyone, and then give them that voice that they are left out of the DEQ, the Marine Fisheries Commission. Almost all management discussions do not include the consumer, which is the largest user group of the resource. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Thank you again. Just like Bobby said, just encourage you to keep working towards trying to find some solution. And
So we have it for the record, name and where you're from?
Jess Hawkins.
Yes, yes.
From here, and I'm a former biologist, and I'm a recreational fisherman, but I love to eat seafood, so I'm like Mr. House, where do I fit? So I just want to offer my services to the committee. I've been doing this for 45 years. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, and I was involved in management when we did things just by idea, and we didn't have any data, into management where we did have data, into management where we had a process. And so I worked for 9 directors, and I just wanted some of your questions that you had today, they reflect leadership. All of you are leaders in your communities, and so the leaders make choices, and these leaders that we have in marine fisheries are appointed by the executive branch. So the governor decides, and I work for 4 governors, and the governor selects all commissioners on the commission. So even if you do not have an opportunity to change legislation, the executive branch, I would urge you to talk with the executive branch to see if they would be willing to try to address some of the concerns that you have. Some of the questions that came up today wanted to tell you on crabs, the state does not have to do anything. So they're operating under an old fishery management plan, and they're trying to update it through what's called adaptive management, which is another process. They're doing it through proclamation, like what Glenn said. I would urge this committee to look at the proclamation authority. We're one of the few states, it's not the only state, that has proclamation authority. It's been given to the director if the commission allows it, and it allows, it's almost like an eminent decree. So like a king can proclamate it. You have to give 48 hours notice. And again, we're one of the few states that have that ability. With regard to blue catfish, again, leadership, Virginia and Maryland led the way. They got a bill passed to address this. I raised this issue when I was on the commission back 15 years ago, and the reply I got is we're not into extension work. And so that is an issue. It's an issue then. It's an issue more now. And Virginia, if you look at their legislation, and Maryland, they have tried to address that in a proactive way. With regard to sheep's head, they do not have to do anything. And what I tell you in my comments to you before, the General Assembly laid out a process. Glenn alluded to it. There's supposed to be a fishery management plan developed for all the important recreational and commercial species. Leadership has chosen not to do a fishery management plan. They decided to do it by proclamation. They decided to do it one public meeting to get input. It used to be we'd have 4 public meetings at a minimum up and down the regions of the state to try to get input to see what our citizens wanted, being a public servant. And so policy now does not reflect that. So just to let you know, they have one public meeting here, and you can send comments in through electronic means. The last thing is this is reflective of process. The Blue Crab Plan, they did not run any of these issues by Blue Crab committee members. They did not have, the law requires, or the law states that the division shall appoint, or the commission shall appoint a committee to help them develop these fishery management plans. Their current decision is they have one meeting, they do a workshop 2 days, and that's the last time that committee sees that plan. So there's no chance for feedback like where Janet is, and her husband was one of my best Blue Crab Committee advisors. And so I don't understand that, why our state, we shake our head, how do we get here? And it's a series of iterative decisions by the different directors and the governor allowing it through time. And now we're almost, what I tell you is we're almost back to where we were back in the 80s, except the commercial fishery is collapsing. So we don't have a lot of fisheries like the man mentioned there, River Heron. We're not doing anything to determine how can we open that back up, or can we open it back up? Should we open it back up? And we're not doing anything. And so I'll cut my comments off there. If I can help you in any way, Bob has my contact information. So does Glenn. So does Chris. And I'll be glad to try to help you because I just want to try to give something back to my state before the final days come. So.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. Do we have anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Skip Conklin. I'm from here in Morehead City, primarily commercial fish. The lawsuit is of kind of interest that the CCA is bringing relative to it being constitutional or not. My memory serves me right, having watched what took place in Florida, and the method they went through to ban the gill netting down there was circumventing organizations like this and their fisheries commission and going right to the general population with a constitutional amendment. So recognizing that as this group goes about its mission, education, awareness, I suspect the next step from CCA, should they lose, and this is probably their test into the legislation, will be to look at an organizational effort across the state relative to amending the Constitution to do away with things like gill netting and inshore trawling. Thank you.
Thank you, Skip. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Riley Lewis, and I am a local water quality researcher who lives in Carteret County. Thank you for the opportunity to share brief comments on behalf of Coastal Carolina River Watch, a local water quality nonprofit. You heard from Coastal Carolina River Watch Executive Director Lisa Ryder, who's here today, at the last meeting where she provided information including a flyer regarding our second annual Water Quality for Fisheries Symposium that was held here in Carteret County. And I am here to happily announce that last week we successfully hosted that Water Quality for Fisheries Symposium at the Duke Marine Lab right up the road. And the event brought together more than 100 participants, including fishermen, farmers, researchers, students, county commissioners, funders, and state and federal representatives. Together, we focused on strengthening the connection between water quality, fisheries, and the coastal economies that we all depend on. We want to extend our sincere appreciation to the elected officials who were joining us and supported this year's program. So specifically, thank you Representative Pricey Harrison, who is not here today, Representative Ed Goodwin, Representative Richard Blackweiler, Senator Norma Sanderson, and Congressman Greg Murphy for their support and taking part in the discussions. And also, from Onslow County, we really appreciate the Commissioners John Davis, Royce Bennett, for attending and contributing very well about their local perspectives. And thank you, Commissioner Tony Padgett, as well. We deeply value the support of the event and continued collaboration with the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. And thank you all so much. And then to all who participated and attended, thank you so much for helping to share our mission and the leadership. We will be collaborating to host the next Water Quality for Fisheries Symposium next year. And then also we're going to have a fisheries industry working group meeting in the spring of 2026. And so we'd love to hear from this group about those sessions and any of the efforts to protect fisheries and water quality along the coast. So feel free to reach out. I'll hang out afterwards in case you guys have any questions. But thank you so much for your time, and it was a great meeting.
Thank you, Riley. All right, anyone else? Okay, with no one else, that will end public comment. I hate to put Jess on the spot, but we have talked several times. Jeff would, and I'll limit it if it's agreeable with the coalition members here, to 3 consultants. Jeff, would you consider being one of our 3rd consultant? Sure. Absolutely, we appreciate it. I've had numerous conversations with Jeff, and he's very, very knowledgeable. With these 3 individuals, I think we can get about as much knowledge as we possibly can. If that's the pleasure of the board, I would entertain that. So moved. Okay. Those in favor of the motion then signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jess. We appreciate you agreeing to do that. On the way down today, I was thinking about the meeting and when our next meeting should take place, and with all due respect, I know each and every one of us have a ton on our plate. I can't tell you enough how much I got on my plate dealing with Buxton and Avon and all kinds of other stuff, and fishing, and you name it, we got it, but that's why they pay me the big bucks. But as a kind of pleasure for you guys to maybe enjoy the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, I want to propose, since we don't have anything urgent in front of us other than myself putting together what we have discussed as our set priorities and our goals, and since the legislature probably won't be back in session until late February or March, that I kind of give y'all a reprieve, and maybe we not meet again until February, if that works for everybody. And if you have some, I don't know if you've reached out that late or not, but I know you said you had some.
January, and I just asked for February. She told me to stand by.
Yeah, okay. So I'll propose, rather than hold us, we'll get what kind of date were you looking at in February? Oh, you just asked her to give you some dates.
Yeah, I have January
Okay, but, once again, we prefer what, Wednesday? Or to the group? We've got some time to work that out, so, if she can't get that to you in the next few, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this is maybe not germane to this conversation, but whenever I would do committees at the county level, I used to have meetings every other week. Because the problem is with a monthly meeting, what happens is you spend about half of it trying to recap what you did before and trying to get people back up to speed to where they once were. And my point being is, with respect to this, if we do this 2-3 months out, how much of this information that we've already gained right here we're going to lose?
Well, I would suggest you read my emails.
Well, well, my point being,
I can tell you, I don't get any response on my emails, and I send a ton of emails. So I will keep you totally informed.
okay, well, I'm just saying, it might be better to do it more expediently, you know, than it would be to wait and have it in February. That's my only point. Maybe have a January meeting, that's my thinking. But anyway.
Maybe late January?
We could do that. I'm open to that, late January.
So the latest date I have right now that she provided is January 15th. And I'm going to ask her, also January 14th is available. She just sent me February 2nd, 3rd, 4th, February 9th, 10th, or February 17th. And I've asked for some more in January. So I'll repeat those. We have January 14th or 15th available. Also February 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, February 9th or 10th, or February 17th. And I've got a few late dates that I've asked her for January.
What day of the week is the 15th of January?
The 15th, I believe, is a Thursday, and the 14th would, of course, be a Wednesday.
I know a couple of us will be out that day. That's the overall commission meeting too, Mr. Chairman.
14th is Wednesday, you said?
Third.
No, I'm asking her.
Yes. January 14th is a Wednesday.
How about if we did early February, because January is duck hunting season, and then you have Youth Day on the Saturdays in February.
So far, they're not regulating that.
Mr. Chairman, I move for February 4th.
I like that, February 4th.
February 4th is a what?
A Wednesday.
All right, there's a motion on the floor for the next meeting, February 4th. Is there a second? Floor is open for there's a second. The floor is open for continued conversation. Hearing none, those then in favor of February 4th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. I promise you, I will overload your box between now and February the 4th with emails. Will I not, Glenn?
Yeah, then we're going to be sending you some information to send to them too. And again, I encourage y'all, either reach out to Skylar or me directly, any questions you have, and that way we can prepare ourselves, kind of educate ourselves in between.
Very good. So, well, once again, thank you all. I certainly thank you so much for your dedication. And with that being said, I need a motion to adjourn. There's a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. Any further comments? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Joe.
Anyone interested in staying for a short craft